Hello everyone. So my name is Sarah and I am one of the Lloyds Banking Group emerging talent partners, and I'm joined today by a few of our existing software engineering graduates and one of our previous graduates who works within the software engineering space. So I guess just a quick introduction from me. As I said, I'm one of the group's emerging talent partners. My role is to I guess work with divisions across the group to help them to shape and deliver and kind of oversee their emerging talent strategies, and also the programmes that are in place. And that's with the purpose of creating opportunities to build key skills and capabilities across the group. And I guess that could align to anything from graduate programmes, industrial placements, apprenticeship opportunities, etc. But today we are here to talk about our software engineering graduate programme. So just for those of you who don't know much about Lloyds Banking Group, I'll do a really quick overview of the group, talk very high level about the software engineering graduate scheme and the application process that you would go through. And then I will pass probably to the more important people on the call, to some of these guys who have gone through the programme and can share some of their experiences of what it's like to work within engineering at Lloyds. So I guess Lloyds Banking Group is the UK's largest digital and retail bank. We've got brands that span across the whole of the UK and span banking and finance overall. You'll probably recognise some of the brands within the group from the high streets, so such as Bank of Scotland, Halifax, Lloyds, Scottish Widows, etc. Our footprint touches nearly every community and household within the UK. We've got around 30 million customers and around 60,000 colleagues who work with us. And I guess one of the key elements of the group strategy at the moment is around transforming the group to ensure that we can provide the best service possible for our customers. So I guess that includes things like embracing new and modernised technologies, using cloud-based architecture or machine learning, being really data-driven to understand our customers' needs better, and then use that data and those insights to help us offer our products, offer the right products, I guess, to our customers. And that could be anything from, I guess, and also ensuring that the infrastructures and the systems and the tools that we have in place at the moment are as slick and efficient and are the right ones, and that are safe as well. So linked to this, we know that there is a growing need for the software engineering skill set across the group, and that is kind of how the software engineering graduate programme was born. So the purpose of this scheme is to bring a new talent to the group, to build a key pipeline of software engineering graduates, and in order to ultimately end up with technical experts in the software engineering space. It's a 2-year programme, and graduates go through 3 different placements throughout those 2 years. It gives them an opportunity to deepen their engineering skills, as well as giving them the opportunity to work with a breadth of different teams and gain experience working with different people and stakeholders across the organisation as well. So our first cohort of software engineering graduates joined us in September last year, and some of those, as I said, are on the call today, as well as Stephen, who is one of our previous graduates and works in the engineering space. In terms of application process, I guess we're open now for applications, is probably one of the important things to say, and the application window is open until the 4th of February. It's open to anyone who has or is on track to have a 2-2 degree or above in any degree discipline, although for this programme you do need some existing coding knowledge, which is required, and I'll go into that in a minute as part of the application process. So the application process itself, there are 4 stages. So the first one is application and online assessment, and this is where during the online assessments you can gain an insight into Lloyds Banking Group and an understanding of how we support our customers and the wider communities that we work with as well. Usually that stage takes around 90 minutes. The next stage is the technical test, where we put candidates through a bit of a coding test. There are practice tests on the website as well, just so that people can have a look at the types of tests that they're likely to see during that testing stage as well. And if you're successful at online test and the technical test stages, the next stage, which is the third one, is the job insight assessment. And that allows you to better understand the activities and the types of work and the projects that you might get involved in as a software engineering graduate at Lloyds Banking Group. and it uses some kind of true to life situations as part of those assessments as well, so you can really try and get a feel for what it's like to work within the engineering space at Lloyds. And that one, I think, in total takes roughly an hour. And if you're successful at that stage, the final stage is the assessment centre, and that is a full day virtual assessment centre. It's run through Microsoft Teams, and there's a combination of different exercises during that day, from group exercises, one-to-one interviews, sort of short problem solving type exercises as well. So there's a different combination of things, and it's a really enjoyable day actually. So and during the assessment centre, you also have a chance to speak to some of our existing graduates again, just to ask questions and kind of, I guess, get more again in terms of what their experience has been like on the programme as well. So that is, I guess, a high-level overview of the recruitment process. I think it's probably time for me to stop talking now. If it's okay, Stephen, I will pass over to you to give us an overview of your background.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. So I'm assuming everybody can hear me all right. Let the other people on the camera. Yep, good stuff. Yeah, so hi, everybody. I'm Stephen Heggie. As Sarah says, I am an ex-graduate. I'm actually also an ex-intern as well. So I'll explain my background with Lloyds. So I went to Edinburgh University. I did a master's in computer science. And in my penultimate year, started my Lloyds journey, if you want to call it that. So I did an internship, which was 10 weeks over the summer in 2017. And from the internship, I applied and came back again on the graduate scheme. And that was from 2018 until the end of 2020. So over the course of COVID. And very similar to what I believe you'll do on the software engineering scheme. It was 3 8-month placements, different areas of the bank. And that's the way we usually do it, is so that you can experience lots of different points and really pick the direction that you want to go in, the area of the bank that interests you, certainly from a software engineering perspective, the tools and technologies that you would like to progress your career in, basically. So on the graduate scheme, I did 3-month placements. At that time, it wasn't a software engineering graduate scheme. It was more of a wider scoped piece, but I was always focused on engineering because of my background. And I've now since rolled off into our GCP public cloud, Google Cloud platform, our public cloud platform engineering team as a cloud engineer. So I think my part of the talk is probably focusing more on what we're currently building, what we're currently doing within the organization. So I'll focus on that more, but I think there's a Q&A section. I'm happy to answer any questions more specific to my grad experience at that time. So, and what we're doing at the moment. So as you'll be aware, every kind of bank, any company really is a data company, right? That's the common saying that you'll read in any of these cliche business books, and it's very much the case. So how do we compete as an organization in a sector that is becoming more and more and has been at the forefront of kind of digital technology for a long time now? You think of challenger banks such as Monzo, Starling, very slick applications, in some cases very slick websites, setting up accounts in minutes, etc., etc. It never used to be like that. So banking has shifted into this space where it's a Facebook-ish, Google-ish, Spotify, you're competing on many different ways. The customer experience, the expectation needs to be the same. So how do we drive that? It's not building data centers every day. We are a bank at the end of the day. That's not our forte. That's not our focus. So that's where public cloud comes into that domain. How do we use the latest technologies from Google, from Microsoft? How do we leverage the latest technology, the latest hardware, make life easier for us to kind of drive technology and build really useful, compelling products that customers want to use, and that's our main goal. So within the platform engineering area that I work within, we specifically focus on using Google Cloud Platform. We also have an Azure platform as well. Main reason for that being banking is a regulated industry, and you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket in case Microsoft decides we're not doing cloud anymore, or something potentially happens and Microsoft are no more. Equally, same thing could happen to Google. We need to make sure that we have an alternative backup plan so that we can support anything that we build and ensure that, as you've probably experienced on the news in previous years, like TSB, for example, people not being able to access their bank accounts, etc. It's maybe a little bit more trivial for Google if people can't get to their emails, but certainly far more important if people can't get to their money. So very important that we have a strategy that allows for very safe, risk-averse use of technology. So we have an Azure platform, we have a Google platform. I work within the Google platform. And ultimately what we do is we take Google's product, Google Cloud Platform, and we decide, okay, so what features do we want to use? And on top of that, how do we use them safely, compliantly, and approved by our regulator? So we take the vanilla product and we effectively build an interface between Google Cloud and the bank. And our customers, and I mean that in the sense of my team, the Google Cloud, the platform engineering team, we are providing a service to other areas of the bank. So if that team are developing mobile applications, banking websites, pension systems, for example, and they want to leverage the public cloud, be that Azure or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud, they would come to us, enroll in our platform, onboard onto our platform, and we provide this safe, secure, compliant platform, basically. So it's like a bit of an abstraction layer on top of what Google Cloud offers. So why would we do that? I mentioned that a few times. There's obviously regulation. We don't want people doing certain things, but also, one of the things we always talk about is, crypto mining, for example. And some people sometimes do silly things, without really realizing it. Within the bank, we work on very complex systems. You could potentially, and Google Cloud would allow you to do this, create some crazy powerful server that could potentially be costing you thousands of pounds a minute, for example. So again, it's about protecting people within the bank and ensuring we're using the bank's money wisely, but also to protect us from ourselves, really, and sometimes 1 0 off the end could be a mistake when you're trying to do a 10-core machine instead of a 100-core machine. So yeah, a lot of stuff like that. What else do we develop? A lot of that is supporting our customers, supporting the areas that are using our cloud platform. Technologies that we use. So within Google Cloud, I can't speak too much on Azure, but focus more on Google Cloud as that's what we're using. So we leverage GitHub. So GitHub and GitOps are our primary methods of enacting change and doing change in Google Cloud. So if you want to create any resources in the cloud, you would push a commit to GitHub, and hopefully that language makes sense to you all. But you would push some code basically to an online repository, and from there we have automated Jenkins pipelines. Jenkins is an automation server, so what that does is it's effectively, think of it as a computer that you just program, do this, do this, do this, do this. It will read my code, it will build it, it will push it somewhere else. And then for our infrastructure as code, so being able to code a server or configure some kind of cloud resource like a Kubernetes cluster, for example, we use a technology called Terraform, which again is an open source technology. I don't think it's actually open source, it's owned by HashiCorp, but it's very kind of industry standard technology where you can configure servers, any kind of cloud infrastructure as code, and that will then end up on the cloud platform. Because the main reason for that being, if you had to go through and manually configure everything, which these platforms do allow you to do, you could have user errors, input errors. It's not very repeatable, and that's one thing we always like in the cloud, is being able to effectively destroy everything, bring it back up again, and there's that's called immutability. Rambling now. Hopefully I've kind of sparked your interest in that. Cloud is a very, very big area for us. It's seeing a lot of investment. It's a very exciting place to work, and that's my main reason for rolling off the graduate scheme and positioning myself to successfully achieve a role in this area, working with Google, working closely with Microsoft. It's a great space to learn. I don't know about the other my other colleagues on the call here, but it's certainly not something that was discussed when I was doing computer science at university. Not really using the cloud, not really using kind of enterprise tools and infrastructure as code. It was very much a theoretical degree I did. So again, it was a great opportunity to learn new skills and kind of be surrounded by all of this new stuff. And I think that's probably what I'll conclude on is my experience of Lloyds is very much a learning organization, and colleagues that joined the bank with me on the graduate scheme all the way up to colleagues that have worked within the bank for 10, 20, 30 years are still doing industry certifications, are still spending a few evenings a week studying something, learning something, and putting it into place at work. And I think you'll find that when you join, that there's plenty of opportunity to invest in your own professional development and gain new skills. So I think I'm 1 minute away from my time being up. I won't waffle anymore. So I'm not sure who's next, but I'll pass on, and happy to answer any questions at the end about anything I've talked about or perhaps didn't talk about that you'd like me to. So thanks.
That's fine. And there will be a Q&A session at the end, just so that everyone's aware as well. But I think for now, we're going to pass over to Max, if it's all right, please, Max.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Perfect. Hi, everyone. So Stephen's given an amazing overview of engineering at Lloyds. So I'm going to go more into sort of like the support and what's available at Lloyds and why it's a great place to work. So I came from Warwick University. I did cybersecurity. I graduated this summer and then joined in September. And really from day one, I felt like very, very supported here. There's so much support, obviously, with the cohort, obviously, like Ant and Elaine, like we're all very good friends, like in our cohort. And then there's, of course, your line manager. So that's the person you'll work with sort of on a day-to-day basis. And there'll also be, when you join, grad practice managers. So they will sort of be your point of contact if you've got anything sort of going wrong, or you need a chat, or anything during your like day-to-day where you want to just have a chat, really. And there's also, I think, Lloyds, one of the reasons I wanted to work for them was sort of the commitment to inclusion and diversity. So especially from someone outside, it was great to see sort of July 2020 them come out with the race action plan. So if you haven't heard of that, it's a plan to increase minority ethnic group representation at senior roles. So at the moment, I think it's 0.6 going up to what's on the spot now, so I can't remember. I think it's 3% for black colleagues, and then raising up to probably about 13, 14 for colleagues of all minority ethnic groups. And there's also lots of networks inside the group. So I'm a member of Rainbow, which is the LGBT network. There's also Reach and Bold, which are both sort of minority and ethnic group based. There's Access for Disability and Breakthrough for Gender Equality. And, you know, for a lot of organizations, it can be sort of a bit of a box ticking exercise to do the whole inclusion and diversity thing. But I think it really is in Lloyds' DNA to sort of represent the people that we are serving as, you know, 27 million retail customers. We represent a wide group of the UK population. So if we don't represent them, we're not serving them properly. So yeah, at the moment I'm in innovation and strategy, which is in the CTO. When you join, you'll find out there's lots of acronyms. CTO is the Chief Technology Office in Group Transformation. That will mean nothing to you, but you'll understand it. There's just lots and lots of layers. So I'm working in sort of business models of the future, so things that are coming in 3 to 5 years time, that sort of thing. And it's really interesting to do more of a sort of strategy based thing, because you get to meet lots of interesting people, get to collaborate with lots of different areas across the bank, and there's a lot, like there's 70,000 plus people here. There's lots and lots of people doing lots of really interesting things. If there's something you want to do, you'll find it at Lloyds. So yeah, I think I'm not sure how long I've talked for, but I don't really have a lot more to say. I am quite partial to waffling, so I will put myself back on mute and pass on to Ant or Elaine.
No worries. I think we've got Elaine down next, if that's okay, Elaine, on the order.
Yeah, no problem. So hi everyone, I'm Elaine. I'm currently working within the digital platform sector in a front-end focused team. So at the moment we use technologies and languages such as JavaScript, CSS, and a content management system called AEM to create, configure, and maintain components found on Lloyds as well as other brand websites within Lloyds. So that includes Halifax, Bank of Scotland, etc. So this is really cool because in personal projects before I started, a lot of the languages I used were front end focused. So they were JavaScript, they were CSS. So it was really nice to kind of have that transition to this team and able to use and practice these languages in a real professional setting. So I guess some things that I want to talk about during this time that I would have really wanted to know in this kind of call is firstly how much of a technical background is kind of required to apply for this kind of role, and also what kind of training you receive when you first start. And for the technical background side, so I did maths at uni. I didn't do computer science, and I guess it's tangentially related. But I did maths, and before starting, I'd only ever done personal projects to practice code and courses on places like Udemy. So I'd never used and practiced coding and languages in a work setting until I started Lloyds. So I was, before applying for the job, I was very, very worried about applying, wondering if I was ready. And honestly, I think anyone who is on this call at the moment who is slightly worried about this, I say honestly, do not worry. Do not worry about applying, thinking that you might not have a lot of technical background, because it's honestly one of those things. And you'll find this when you start applying and you go through the application process, that Lloyds looks more for the kind of attitude you have, and whether you are willing and enthusiastic about learning new things, learning new ideas and new technologies, more so about how much of a technical background you actually have. So Sarah mentioned this previously, is you do certain steps through the application process. One of them is doing a coding challenge. So you do need to know at least one language, but aside from that, it is more about the kind of attitude that you demonstrate throughout the application process and how much you are willing to learn new things. And I guess, yeah, related to that in terms of the training that you receive when you first start. So I guess this could be kind of separated into two subsets. The first is the training that all of us grads receive, and training that we're still receiving at the moment because we've only started in September. And it's that you get like lots of different intro meetings when you first start with different teams and different directorates all across the bank. So you get a really nice kind of overview of how different teams interact with each other and where you fit within the bank, as well as specific courses that you enroll on that kind of gets you up to speed no matter where you are. And that includes like courses like DevOps and Azure. So all of us grads do these kinds of courses. And then there's also training within your team. Specifically. So personally for me, when I first joined this front end team, they were really, really patient, really great with getting me up to speed and kind of, you know, making sure that I had the fundamental understanding before giving me any complex pieces of work. And kind of alongside that, you are given and you do have access to loads of different materials and resources that you can also use to kind of bring yourself up to speed. So I guess with that as an overview, I say anyone who is thinking about applying and worried that either they don't have the technical background or are worried about what kind of training you'll receive, I say honestly, do not worry. You will receive the training that you need to get you up to speed, and make sure that you're kind of ready to take on pieces of work and ready to like transition from placement to placement. And yeah, I guess that's it from my end. So yeah, I'll probably pass on to Ant here.
Yeah, thanks Elaine. So I'll just tell you a bit about myself. So obviously I'm on the software engineering grad scheme, started about 4 months ago, like Max and Elaine. Currently in London. You can get a little bit of say in where you want your placement to be. You can't be guaranteed, but I live in London normally, so I wanted to be here. Pretty close to the London offices around the sort of Moorgate area. I did physics at uni. So coming in, applying, I was worried about, I haven't done computer science. Everyone I'm competing with to get onto the scheme is going to have done computer science. They're going to know so much more than me. But like Elaine said, it's more about your skills and your passion as opposed to like technical experience or having a computer science degree, which is really cool. But we have a very mixed spread of degrees in our cohort, so that's cool. On my degree, I knew that I wanted to do coding. I did 2 coding courses at uni. I knew I loved it. And after uni, I didn't want to go straight into a grad scheme, so I took some time off. And I went into an internship at fintech, doing sort of more back-end stuff, databases, that kind of thing. After that, I joined my friend's startup, did more front-end bits to a view of trying to be more full stack. And then eventually joined Lloyds. And currently I'm in the performance engineering team, which is kind of making sure that our online services like internet banking have the capacity to support our users, even at peak times. So you can imagine like on payday or first day of the month type situations, we need to make sure that no matter what happens, even if one of our data centers goes down, for example, we can provide for all our customers. We don't get outages because that'd be really bad. Everyone needs to have access to their money at all times. So that's kind of what my team does right now. And yeah, not sure what else I have to say. But look forward to the Q&A.
Well, thank you. So just before we start the Q&A, can any of you think of anything that has triggered another thought in your head, maybe that you didn't cover when you were talking? If not, then we can go straight into the Q&A, but happy to just open it up a little bit to see if anyone thought of anything else.
Just I saw someone mentioned in the chat something about working remotely or working from the office. As you can probably tell, I'm in the office at the moment. I'm in our old Broad Street office. There's a few around London and obviously like across the UK. And at the moment we're in a sort of hybrid working. So my team is 2 days a week technically. So Mondays and Tuesdays we're in the office to collaborate, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday we can either work from home or come into the office. So there's always like, they call them wellbeing desks, which is another aspect of sort of support I forgot to mention. But if you struggle to work from home, if you've got mental health problems that mean you sort of like get stressed at home, or you struggle with being isolated, then there is that support. So you can come in, you can see people, and you can agree those sort of ways of working with your line manager. So I find it a lot easier to work from the office and stay focused, things like that. So I come in even through the sort of like work from home guidance. There's these wellbeing desks available. So that's all I want to say there.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. I think in this, the way that things are working at the moment, it's pretty flexible, I think, in terms of working from home versus working from the office. So I think as the COVID guidelines change with the government, the group are really quick at kind of picking up on those and updating the guidelines for colleagues and in terms of how they should be working on a week-to-week basis as well. So shall we have a quick look at some of the questions in the Q&A, if I go through some of them, and then if it's okay, it would be great if the majority are going to be for you guys who have gone through the graduate programme, I think. I guess one of them is, what advice would you give to someone applying now? Can anyone hear me okay? Can you hear me when I'm talking?
Yeah. Some advice I would say is maybe look at your values, what you look for in a company that you want to work for, and see if they're aligned to Lloyds. Because I think a big part of the recruitment process is, are your values aligned with us, kind of thing. So that's one thing I'd mention.
And I think, like Elaine had mentioned before as well, that we know that a lot of people who are applying for the programmes don't necessarily have a lot of practical work experience behind them. So we look more about what your strengths are as an individual, what you're passionate about, where you've got potential to grow, and where you've got the right attitude and that willingness to learn as well. So definitely I agree with what you'd said there, Elaine, on that one.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the only thing I'd add to those points is if you are applying now and you've done some personal projects in the past, I'd say maybe bring those back up and just have them at the back of your mind, because especially when you get to the if you get to the interview stages, I think it's something that's really good to talk about and kind of shows your passion for coding. So I'd say that's kind of my tip of the day, I guess.
Yeah, brilliant.
I would add as well, just it's interesting transitioning from graduate to kind of real employee. I now do interviews for, you know, other real employees. And I think the main thing is, in a lot of the fields, certainly for cloud anyway, it's we're trying to assess people's potential. It's very new technology. And I think that's the main thing, is if you can get across, it's not about what you know. You know, there's always those jokes on LinkedIn about, you know, how do I have 5 years experience for this job, you know, potentially not even born by that time or whatever. You know, don't care about that. It's 6 months from now, how valuable are you going to be to the team? So if you can convey that and give us that impression, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, and I guess there's a real focus within Lloyds of that continuous development piece.
Exactly.
So we really encourage people. There's a huge amount of opportunities to learn new skills, learn new tools, languages, etc. Across the whole group, not just within the engineering space. So it's definitely something that you would be supported to do in terms of that learning piece. So I'm just having a look at some more questions now. Just bear with me while I get onto the questions. Flicking between the screens. So we've covered a question about working remotely. So yeah, so just touching on one, there's one here around someone who's got a background in aerospace engineering, and do you need a qualification in software engineering to work for the group? So just going back to one of the points that I made at the beginning, so the minimum requirement is to have or be on track to have a 2-2 degree in any subject. So you could have done geography, you could have done English, but as Elaine had mentioned, it's more about having a sort of basic understanding of maybe 1 or 2 coding languages, for example, in terms of that knowledge, but you don't technically need to have a specific degree within the discipline at all. Anyone who would like to answer? So in terms of the technical interviews and assessments, how did you prepare? So just to begin with on that one, I will say that if you go onto our website, which is www.lloydsbankinggrouptalent.com, there are pages on there that have practice questions as well that you can go into, and gives you a little bit more insight into what to expect throughout the different stages of the recruitment process. But I don't know if any of you guys on the call wanted to add anything in terms of how you prepared specifically for any of those parts.
I think for me personally, I spent a lot of time on HackerRank. That was I religiously spent time on that. That was kind of my holy Bible of like preparing for these kinds of things. I think because it structures it in a really good way, and it makes you approach it as solving a problem as well, which I think is quite similar to how you would do the coding challenge. So I think it was really good practice for me to not only practice solving problems, but also practice learning a new language, as well as practicing a language I already knew, so that if I go into the coding challenge, I can either use a language I've already done and I'm comfortable with, or I could try a new language. So I think, yeah, HackerRank for me was definitely the one I went to the most when I was practicing the coding challenges.
And I think if I can just jump in there, I think it is like what Elaine said, it's your passions, it's your sort of like what you do in your spare time, because it's a strengths-based interview, so it's trying to highlight what is sort of what's best about you, like what you're good at, that sort of thing. So it's not really like a prepare for specific questions, like name 50 times you've, I don't know, been a great leader or something like that. It's more about you and what you're interested in.
Yeah. There are a few questions here about internships. So we don't currently have internships within the software engineering space, but we do offer industrial placement opportunities. So that website that I spoke about there, the Lloyds Banking Group talent.com, it's worthwhile going onto there and having a look. And that gives you an overview of all of the different types of opportunities that we offer, whether that's graduates, industrial placements, apprenticeships, etc. So just to call that one out there, because I think it looks like there's been a few questions about what internship opportunities we might have. How to prepare for assessment centres, if anyone wants to cover that one. And again, just to kick that one off, there is a candidate briefing call prior to assessment centres as well. So that will give candidates who are invited to assessment centre an overview of what to expect, how to prepare, etc. in that one. So But I guess from your guys' perspective, who are currently or have been on the graduate programme, anything from you guys on that one?
One thing I'll say is just try to enjoy it. Like I was pretty nervous before mine, didn't really know what to expect because it was my first one, but I ended up really enjoying it after the day, and I think that the exercises were pretty fun actually. It's a chance to just see like who you are. So like it's not about necessarily having to prepare loads for it. Maybe just have a think about, you know, what languages you've used recently, just so you can speak about that. But I'd say it's not something to prepare that much for, in my experience. I don't know if Max and Elaine feel similarly, but
Yeah,
I definitely agree.
yeah, I completely agree. I think it's really hard to prepare for because you don't know what's going to come up, and there's lots of like you said, there's lots of different tasks that day. Kind of just building on your point, and I think a good way to prepare is just thinking about what languages you're good at, why you truly want the role, so you speak about it in the assessment centre. And I guess the tip for if you do reach the assessment centre is, like Ant said, try and enjoy the process, because you can learn a lot from it. But also, I think importantly, if you get through a task and you really think you've messed it up, don't lead with that thought, because you might have done a lot better than you think. And there were so many times during the assessment centre that I thought I really messed up and made it here. So yeah, I think definitely enjoy the process and try not to let one task, if you think it goes bad, try not to let it fester in your mind for the next ones.
Yeah. Also, it's quite a long day. You'll be there for a full day, I think. So remember to take breaks and take the time, because they'll space it out so you can like go and have some food or have a drink, have a walk. Definitely take the opportunity to do that, because it can be a long experience. But everyone there wants the best for you. Like, we've been fighting over dates that we can like come and help out at, because we wanted to make sure you enjoy yours. Like, all of the assessors want you to do your best. So I hope that puts you at ease a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a question here around what specific software engineering roles are you recruiting for, and moreover, what experience are you looking for from graduate students in terms of tools and coding languages? So obviously it's a software engineering graduate programme, but I know that can be quite, me not being from a technical background and being an SME in this space, but I think software engineering can cover kind of a range of different types of engineering roles. So I guess the opportunities that people would get on the placements that they're in will be probably start off a bit more generalist in the first placement. And then I think the idea is that we want to really make sure that throughout your second and third placements that you have that opportunity, if you have particular career aspirations, for example, to go into a particular type of engineering within that space, then we would look to try and support you as much as possible to continue developing and deepening those skills within the kind of areas that you're really interested in. And then in terms of the languages, I would say, and I will get you guys to jump in as well here from a more technical perspective, but there aren't particular, you don't need to have specific languages. For example, you might be aware of one language, but as you go throughout the programme, you will have the opportunity to learn things in other languages as well. I shall pass on to one of the experts now, though. I could see you nodding there, Elaine, as well, in terms of what I was saying.
I definitely wouldn't say I'm an expert, but yeah, no, I agree. I don't think you need to have a specific language under your belt. I think it's more, I mentioned before, the more the mentality you have towards it, as long as you're enthusiastic and willing to learn a new language. I think that's definitely more important than knowing loads of languages before you start. I think before I started, I practiced using JavaScript and CSS on the front side, and then Java and Python on the back end. But that doesn't necessarily mean that anyone on the call needs to learn these languages at all. It's more, I think, just having a general gist of languages and coding in general, and having kind of that enthusiasm to learn languages more than specifically knowing one through and through. So I think, yeah, it's definitely more about the attitude than the knowledge, I'd say.
Yeah. And I think also within the way that the teams are structured within our group transformation division, where the engineering teams tend to sit, it's and you guys again feel free to jump in here, but It's very agile methodology based, so you're in a team of people who will have lots of experience and doing lots of different things, so you'll have a good opportunity to learn from others as well, and kind of glean things from their experience too.
I would echo that, and I would just chime in to say from my experience as well. It's I think the most important thing is understanding how programming works. So that could be from one language or multiple languages. But I give you a prime example. We all have access to YouTube and Stack Overflow and all of that kind of stuff on our corporate devices, and that's how you program, right? You think, oh, how would I do that in this language? Okay, I'm just going to Google it, and then I'll find out the answer, and then I'll do it, right? It's not an exam. It's you have a task to do. You figure it out and you complete it. Whether you're an expert in Java and you've been asked to code a function in Python, you figure it out, right? So I wouldn't stress too much about that. It's programming is the most open book, I think, of professions you could possibly go into. So I wouldn't stress about that too much.
One thing I'll say just about the scheme in general is I feel like as a grad, you have a big chance to sort of shape it the way you want. So if you want more experience in one area, you can sort of say that, and you can say, can I shadow this team or in a different area, or for my next placement, I prefer to have these sort of skills. You can add your own input, and in terms of training and stuff you want to learn, your line managers will support you in doing your own courses. Like they'll say, okay, you can go and learn that if that's what you want to do, type thing. So I think you do have a big chance to sort of shape the grad scheme the way that you want it to be as well. That's what I'd say.
Just in terms of a quick question here, so someone is saying, do you recruit international students into the programme if they require sponsorship? So for our software engineering graduate scheme, yes, we do. If you have any specific questions about a situation for individual people, though, then if you go onto our website and have a look, there is a contact us piece on there. So you're more than welcome to reach out if you've got any specific questions about that one as well. There's a couple of questions here which might be quite good to answer. So I think someone's saying, what is the office attire? As you can probably see from what we're all wearing, it's pretty casual. A lot of us are still working from home. It's very much going to go to a hybrid way of working. So I think most people will do a combination of working from home and working in the office. It's probably down to the individuals and the teams that they work in as to what that looks like. But there's a question here around what the company culture is like. So from you guys who have just joined us quite recently, I guess, onto the graduate scheme, it would be good to get your thoughts on what you've experienced over the last few months.
It's really open. Like, that's the only way I'd really describe it. Like, I feel like I could walk up to anyone in this office and just be like, hi, what are you working on? And like have a good chat with them. Like, everyone like is really helpful, really kind. Like, we're all sort of here for, it's really cringe, but the mission is help Britain prosper, and we can only do that working together. So I'd say like everyone has been so helpful, so like kind to me in my first few months.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the only thing I'd add to that is because I'm primarily working from home at the moment, and I know that there's always a worry that when you work from home, you'd struggle to get in contact with people and communicate with people in the same way as if you're in the office. And I definitely didn't feel that here, like working from home. Like, I felt people are so open, and like Max said, people are so willing to get to know you and like answer your questions or something. You never feel guilty, you never feel nervous about asking people for help and communicating with people that you've not communicated with before. So yeah, I definitely say it's a really open and transparent environment for sure.
Absolutely, and I think there's a real focus on encouraging people to collaborate as well. So we really encourage people just not to keep the questions to themselves, because it's typically, if you work in a team of people, they will have experience, they will have contacts and networks across the group, and most people are very, very happy to kind of have a quick coffee chat or just spend some time just sharing about what their experience is and what they do and things like that. So yeah, absolutely.
And just if I could jump in on the sort of office attire dress code thing, as you can probably see, I'm in the office and obviously very casual. The official guide is dress for your day. So if you're just in the office, like wear something comfortable, something like casual. If you're seeing clients, like shirt and trousers or something formal, but like it's not like a a typical, like, you're going to have to come to work in a suit every day.
It's essentially trusting you to wear something that's appropriate for work, really, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think that's like quite a thing that's echoed throughout the culture. If we go back to the culture, like, we are quite trusted to do what's right as sort of colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's just go back and find some questions here again. So do you rotate across teams often, and if so, how often? Now, again, I'll start off with this one. I know that for you guys on the call, you haven't actually gone into your second placements yet, but it is 3 placements across the 2 years. Typically, in most of our programs, out with software engineering as well, it tends to be 3 8-month placements. But certainly, with the engineering program, we know that there could be projects that someone's working on actually that there's an end date that's maybe a month or so longer, for example. So I guess at a high level, we say roughly 3 8-month placements, but we are, depending on individual circumstances, development requirements, the role and the role that someone is doing, then that might flex a little bit. So it could be maybe a 10-month placement or a 9-month placement, or we are kind of quite happy to flex that. But essentially it'll be 3 8-month placements across the 2 years, and that will give you the opportunity to work with different teams, I guess learn different languages, different parts of the areas that you're working in as well. So anything from any of you guys that you wanted to add on top of that?
I would just add, as someone who's been on the grad scheme, it's really important to rotate. I think a lot of the time you find that you end up working for the people that you once worked for. So across those 3 placements, my final placement was in cloud, and that's where I work now. So it's all about building that network and better. You're very much armed to go back to that team. You know what they work on, and it's something that interests you. Not to say you can't apply, obviously, for other roles, but I just know it seems to be the usual trend that you end up going back to one of the teams you previously worked on. So it's really good to do that.
There's a couple of questions around the technical assessments. So I know obviously we said around there's examples on the website and things like that to prepare. At Assessment Centre, there's a technical exercise as well. Without going into too much detail and giving it all away, but it's essentially, and you guys will again be able to give a bit more insight into this than me, but it will give you an example of a situation that you might face in the group and some coding and some information, and you will be asked to kind of interpret what that means, maybe make suggestions about how you would approach the subject or how you would approach the challenge. And I guess sometimes if there's data issues, you might be asked to say, actually, can you see anything that's maybe missing from here, or anything else that you would do. But yeah, I don't know if Anne or Elaine or Max want to add anything there to their more recent experience, but at a high level, that seems to be kind of what it is from an engineering perspective at Assessment Centre. Yeah, okie doke. Sorry, I'm jumping between screens here to look at questions, so I will continue to do that. How can you best show off your willingness to learn and your enthusiasm in the application process? I would start off with that one. Just say, be yourself. Just answer the questions really honestly. It's quite clear when you see people that you're talking to where their passions lie, and kind of when they've got a real interest in something. So it's just about really being yourself and pulling some of that out, really. Anything from you guys who have gone through the process yourselves?
I think again, it's that like being able to back it up. So like personal projects, stuff you've done in your own time, or like stuff that you've really enjoyed from your degree or apprenticeship, wherever you come from, like what you can like talk about to show that you're passionate, because you can't really fake that. Like if you don't enjoy programming or software engineering, then
yeah, absolutely.
And just to kind of add to that, if anyone is worried that they need to have a really complete project that's really complex and has loads of steps, that's not the case at all. Like, you could have a really, really simple project that does like one thing, but I think it is, Max said, it's how you talk about it and how you present it is more important than what you've actually done. So as long as you can kind of show your enthusiasm within the interview and show that you have done something and that you're willing to keep adding to it, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. There's a question here about locations and what locations we're based in. So I guess in terms of the engineering scheme, the typical hubs tend to be Edinburgh, London, Manchester, West Yorkshire, Bristol. So there are a few options there, but I guess at the moment I wouldn't want that to stop someone from applying, because in the situation that we're in at the moment, with everyone working a combination of working from home and in the office, I think we're really open to kind of people being based anywhere, and it might be that you've just got to travel into the office every so often, or but yeah, absolutely don't let specific locations stop anyone from applying, because we would look to take individual circumstances into account where we can, and really kind of support you throughout the programme to make sure that you're in the right placements and locations, etc. for you. Other questions here. So there was a quick question here just around what opportunities you have for penultimate year students. So I would suggest going on to our website and having a look at our industrial placement opportunities in software engineering. So they're actually closed this year for applications, unfortunately now, but certainly have a look there and see if there's any opportunities that you'd like to apply for in future. How did you end up working for Lloyds? Did you always know that you wanted to work for a bank? So yeah, and I guess that's one, it would be interesting to hear all of your thoughts on this one, actually, because I'm a non-technical person. I've worked for the group for years and years now, but from your guys' perspective, what in the software engineering space, what was it that made Lloyds Banking Group stand out to you guys as somewhere that you would want to apply for onto one of the graduate programs? Anyone want to kick this one off?
I can go first. So I would say I think Lloyds has a very good presence at most universities. Certainly in the bygone days of career fairs and stuff like that, you're always aware. But I would answer by saying I was applying for anything and everything in the tech space, certainly in the internship space. So that would be my answer. I like what I saw and enjoyed my internship, and that became my grad scheme as well. But I think, yeah, it was just right place, right time, really. Applied for a lot of other things, other banks as well, other different areas. But yeah, not really a bit of logic there. But yeah.
You made the right choice, though. Anything from anyone else?
Yeah, I think mine was really similar. So I knew I wanted to go into software engineering, but I didn't know specifically where I wanted to go. And I did very similar to Stephen. I did the scattergun approach of different places. But I think what made me go for Lloyds in the end specifically was, and I think we mentioned this, it's the mostly the expectation that you don't need to have a really, really strong technical background, because I didn't, and it's the encouragement that you will learn on the job and you will get everything you need to get you up to speed. And I think that in combination with the 3 placements that you get through the 2 years, because before starting this scheme, and I guess even now, so I didn't know specifically what area of software engineering I wanted to do and wanted to focus in. I just wanted to learn and wanted to do software engineering in general. So I love the idea of having the 3 placements that you could go and experience different sides of the business, use different languages and different frameworks, and just get a kind of an understanding of everything first before you make a decision and specialize in something. So I really love that idea, and that kind of was one of the main driving factors of going for Lloyds specifically in the end.
So, and then I think we've got time just now just for maybe one more quick question. So I guess, what future roles within the company are you looking at applying for to progress your career? So obviously there are lots of different types of roles within the engineering space, and I know, Stephen, you're currently in the GCP team that you said. Anyone, any thoughts on kind of from what you've seen so far, what kind of roles you would like to go into or look to find more about?
I'm at the moment looking in retail. So there's 4 different sort of directives across the bank. There's retail, commercial, insurance and wealth, and enterprise. So for all of the different areas that we sort of serve, I'm looking at retail just because I think that's the most interesting sort of area. Like so many different products offered, so many customers sort of like being served, like real opportunity to have an impact on people's lives. So that's where I'm looking at, but still not really any clue.
Still lots to learn.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I think we're coming up to time now, so apologies to for those questions that we haven't managed to get to yet, but hopefully there will be a chance for us to maybe answer those offline. I'm not too sure, but I'll pick that up with the contacts at targetjobs. So thank you very much to everyone who has joined to listen to us share more information and more insights. Hopefully it's been helpful for everyone. Thank you to all of you who have joined and supported on the call as well alongside me. So thank you very much. We shall end it there and have a good rest of the day.
Thanks everyone. Best of luck for the future.
Thank you.